Have you ever been in or seen a controlling relationship where the control was ritualized through a routine? Because I have a theory that these routines are like water torture. So even though they're not an example of the worst abuse, they're remembered by their victims as the most humiliating aspects of the relationship. So this is my hypothesis. Does this ring true for you? Or is this stupid? So let me give you an example of how I thought of this in the first place. I was reading Crystal Hefner's book, Only Say Good Things, Surviving Playboy and Finding Myself. And she talks about having to ask Hugh Hefner for her allowance every week. Hef maintained a modern harem in his mansion, with several women living with him at any given time. So he wanted these women to show up at all the household activities, of which there were a lot, by the way, and be looking great at all times. They had a 6 o'clock curfew. They had to participate in group lovemaking. It was basically like a full-time job, but with no financial security because they all knew that they could be replaced at any time. So Crystal said that out of all the humiliating things that she had to endure, what stuck out in her mind was this weekly ritual where all of Hef's girlfriends would line up and ask him for their weekly allowance. He made a huge deal of going to his safe and counting out $100 bills for them. So they each got something like $1,000 a week to pay to get their hair done and to buy clothes and to get extensive plastic surgery. During this ritual, the humiliating nature of the relationship was made explicit. His role as a man dominating over them and their submission was in full view. And there's something about this happening over and over again that made it stick in Crystal's mind. So surely this incident was not the worst of what she experienced while at the Playboy mansion. While she doesn't really go into details about the group lovemaking sessions, I suspect that they were pretty humiliating and much more severe than this allowance ritual. But trauma doesn't always work the way that many people think it does. You don't necessarily get more traumatized by the things that are objectively worse. This act was a ritual that happened time and time again and began to symbolize the humiliation, dependence, and exploitation that she had to endure. So unlike the more sordid acts, which both Hef and the women performed sort of robotically, he really loved giving out the allowance money. Crystal could feel that it gave him so much pleasure. That was probably a big part of it. And repeated humiliations can have a compounding effect, reinforcing feelings of powerlessness and dependency. So the learning from this is that trauma is not objective. People are not traumatized according to the severity of what they suffer, but from the ability of their nervous system to process the events and the meaning that the victim is able to make out of what happened. To Hef and to Crystal both, this was a reminder of his power over her. It's like he was rubbing the exploitation in her face. So I am wondering if this has happened to anyone else. Have you or someone you know experienced a painful relationship where the thing that sticks out strongest in your mind was not actually the worst thing that happened to you, but was rather something that was symbolic of what the abuse meant to you?